The calm, starry skies above the peaceful human colony on the outer rim of the galaxy seemed endless. The colony had been a model of human progress and serenity, built on the edge of uncharted space, where humanity had established its new frontier. It was a quiet and flourishing settlement, surrounded by dense, alien forests, where strange and colorful creatures roamed freely. The air was fresh, and the streets buzzed with excitement as people worked and lived in harmony, adapting to the wild alien world around them. A small group of children, laughing and chatting, ran through the fields, exploring the alien flora, their curiosity untouched by the dangers of the vast unknown. Among them was a little girl named Sarah, a blonde-haired, blue-eyed child, no older than 10. She was the apple of her parents' eyes, bright and inquisitive, with dreams far bigger than her small frame. Her father, a colonist working as an engineer, and her mother, a scientist studying the planet's environment, often took her on small expeditions to teach her about the stars, the planets, and the universe beyond. Today, Sarah was on a field trip with her parents, standing at the edge of a grassy hill, gazing up at the stars that filled the sky. The stars seemed so close, like a vast, shimmering ocean above her. She pointed excitedly to a star cluster in the distance, her small voice full of wonder as she asked her mother about the constellations. The colony was quiet, peaceful, so much so that the world around them felt safe. But that peace was shattered in an instant. An alarm blared, the shrill sound tearing through the calm like a knife through still water. At first, Sarah's parents thought it was a routine drill, something they had trained for, but as the alarm grew louder and the warning lights flashed across the colony's control tower, panic began to set in. From the distance, the sound of engine thrusters echoed, growing louder. Suddenly, the dark sky above the colony was pierced by streaks of light. Alien ships, dark and menacing, tearing through the atmosphere. The colony's defense system kicked in immediately, but it was too late. The Xorthar, an advanced alien race known for their ruthless conquests and disdain for weaker species, had launched an unprovoked attack. Their ships, sleek and deadly, easily bypassed the colony's defenses, their weapons firing at will. Energy blasts tore through buildings, creating explosions that sent debris flying through the air. The colony's defense towers attempted to retaliate, but the Xorthar were prepared for such resistance. They had no intention of negotiating. Sarah's parents, overwhelmed by the chaos, tried desperately to protect their daughter, but the Xorthar had already begun sweeping through the colony. They captured Sarah, taking her from her parents' arms. The mother screamed, but her voice was drowned by the roar of the explosions. The father fought back, but the alien soldiers were too powerful, too fast. The colony's defenders were overwhelmed by the alien forces. No one was safe. In a dimly lit room aboard the Xorthar ship, Sarah was held captive, trembling and confused. She didn't understand what was happening, why these strange creatures were taking her away from her parents. Desperate negotiations were held between the Xorthar and the colony's leadership, but the Xorthar had no interest in mercy. They wanted to send a message. They executed Sarah in cold blood, her lifeless body broadcasted across the galaxy in a gruesome display. The galaxy froze in shock. Across Earth, across the many human colonies and the stars, a deep silence fell. The entire human race was connected by the broadcast, and as Sarah's face was shown on screens, it was clear that this was not just the death of an innocent child. It was the death of humanity's innocence itself. The Xorthar had gone too far. The broadcast was chilling. Sarah's face, frozen in fear, her tiny body left behind in a cold alien chamber, was seared into the hearts of every human watching. The horrific scene was so brutal, so raw, that it spread like wildfire, instantly going viral across every screen on Earth. People wept, people screamed in outrage, but above all, they were united in a shared feeling: rage. But in the midst of this overwhelming grief, something else began to stir within the human spirit, something ancient, something powerful. It was a sense of unity and strength, a collective will to make the Xorthar pay for their brutality. This was no longer just about a child's death. It was a call to arms, a declaration that humanity would no longer sit idly by as its children were slaughtered. As the haunting broadcast flickered on screens across the globe, a new voice cut through the silence. Earth's government, the President of Earth, standing before a screen, his face filled with the weight of the decision before him, addressed the people. To the Xorthar and any who might think they can take advantage of us, the President's voice boomed, unwavering and full of authority. They killed a human child. Now, Earth will show them what happens when you harm one of us. The camera cut to the deepest reaches of space, where, hidden from the universe's view, Earth's greatest secret was about to be revealed. Massive warships, each one the size of a planet, began to power up in silence. The gargantuan vessels, cloaked in the darkest corners of the galaxy, slowly came to life, their engines igniting with a deep, resonating hum. These warships, equipped with cloaking devices so advanced they could shield entire planets, were humanity's answer. The Xorthar, for all their technological superiority, had no idea what they were about to face. The ships, some the size of moons, powered up their systems, revealing their weaponry. Massive energy cannons capable of wiping out entire fleets in a single strike. But their true power lay in their stealth and precision. The Xorthar, who prided themselves on their superiority, had no clue that humanity had been preparing for war in secret, and now Earth was ready to strike. The camera zoomed in on one of the warships as its engines hummed to life, its massive hull gleaming with raw power. It was the first time the galaxy would witness the true force of Earth's technological might. The ships didn't need to be fast. They needed to be unstoppable. As the warships began their long journey across the stars, the universe trembled. The Xorthar had no idea what they had unleashed. Earth was no longer the peaceful, isolated colony it once was. Now, Earth had a message. No one hurts a human child and survives. The warships, invisible to any radar or sensors, left the Earth system, quietly cutting through the vast emptiness of space. The Xorthar would soon learn that the small, fragile human race had awakened something far more powerful than they could have ever imagined. The Galactic Council, a massive governing body consisting of various alien species, had long prided itself on its power and influence. Made up of dozens of advanced civilizations, the Council had seen countless species rise and fall, and it had always been the gatekeeper to the galaxy's most coveted secrets. The Xorthar, with their vast technological superiority, had long been a member of the Council, and they were known for their ruthless conquests. The Xorthar were one of the galaxy's most feared races, and their cold, calculating nature had earned them respect and fear from every corner of the universe. When the news broke of the Xorthar's unprovoked attack on a small human colony, the Council was momentarily concerned. They watched the broadcast of the execution of a young human child, and while it was a tragic moment, they saw it as an isolated incident, a small emotional event that would soon fade from memory. The Xorthar were powerful, and the humans were still considered a relatively young and unproven race. The Council expected Earth's response to be small, a token act of revenge, and they laughed at the thought of the humans attempting to challenge the might of the Xorthar. But they couldn't have been more wrong. The President of Earth had made a chilling declaration. They killed a human child. Now, Earth will show them what happens when you harm one of us. And the humans meant every word. What the Galactic Council failed to understand was that the humans were not just seeking revenge. They were declaring war. Not just any war, but a war of extinction for the Xorthar. The moment the President had spoken, Earth's military began its operation to prepare for an unprecedented show of force. The human race would no longer hide in the shadows of space. They were about to bring the full might of their technological advances into the open. A deep silence spread throughout the council chambers as the leaders of various alien species waited for Earth's response. A few of them exchanged looks, uncertain of what was coming, but no one could have anticipated the revelation that was about to unfold. As the cameras zoomed in on Earth, the Galactic Council's representatives were shown watching from their headquarters. Earth's response was not what they had expected. The planet's response was not small. It was not a token retaliation. It was something entirely different, a shift in the balance of power. Earth was about to reveal their trump card. The Titans. The Titans were planet-sized warships, massive enough to dwarf entire moons, each one capable of cloaking entire planets from sight. These ships were not just weapons of war. They were symbols of humanity's resilience, of their ability to adapt and overcome. The Galactic Council had never seen anything like them. The Titans were built in secret, designed over decades, with technology far beyond anything the Council had witnessed. Earth's best engineers, military leaders, and scientists had worked together to create these leviathans of war, ships capable of turning the tide in any battle. But it wasn't just the ships themselves that made them formidable. It was the technology they carried. Advanced cloaking devices made them invisible to all but the most sophisticated sensors. They could slip through space without detection, appearing like ghosts in the vast darkness of the cosmos. These warships were capable of launching devastating attacks, capable of wiping entire fleets from existence with a single strike. But the most frightening part of the Titans was the AI systems that controlled them. Unlike anything the galaxy had seen, these AIs were not only capable of running the ship's systems, they were tactical masterminds. They could analyze and predict enemy movements, calculate attack strategies, and execute complex battle plans in a fraction of a second. The AIs were designed to make decisions with cold precision, and their calculations had already deemed the Xorthar's downfall as inevitable. The fleet of Titans was ready, and they were about to launch. Earth's military leaders gathered in a high-security bunker, away from prying eyes. Commander Elias, the leader of the human fleet, stood before a council of military strategists and advisors. His face was grim, his voice steady, but filled with a quiet fury that came from the weight of the mission ahead. "This will be a war of extinction for the Xorthar," Commander Elias declared, his voice ringing out through the room. "We will make them remember why humans never forget. They thought they could get away with killing one of us. But now they'll see what happens when you provoke an entire species. This is more than just a battle. This is the end of the Xorthar's reign." The room fell silent as the implications of his words sank in. There would be no turning back after this. The Xorthar would either surrender or face total annihilation. Commander Elias knew the stakes were higher than ever before. This was not just about retribution for Sarah's death. This was about sending a message to the entire galaxy. No one, no matter how powerful, could harm a human and expect to go unpunished. As Elias addressed the council, his mind was momentarily distracted. He thought of his own child, a young boy back on Earth. The memory of Sarah's face, so innocent and full of promise, haunted him. He had lost his own family to the horrors of war in the past, and now he was determined to ensure that no one else would suffer the same fate. The death of Sarah had awakened a fire in him, one that would burn through the Xorthar Empire. The tension in the room was palpable as the countdown began. The fleet was about to launch. With the press of a button, the entire fleet of Titans would slip into the vast expanse of space, cloaked and invisible to all but the most advanced detection systems. It was a silent, deadly advance, and Earth's message would be broadcast to the Xorthar before they even knew what hit them. The ships began to power up. Massive engines hummed to life, their energy shields glowing brightly against the dark void of space. The AI systems within the warships synchronized, preparing for battle. These ships were not just war machines. They were extensions of humanity's will, tools of vengeance, justice, and survival. Each Titan was a carefully crafted instrument of destruction, and they were about to make their mark on the galaxy. As the fleet prepared to launch, a final message was sent to the Xorthar. "Your time is up. We are coming for you." The message was clear and direct, a declaration of humanity's arrival. The Xorthar would soon feel the full weight of Earth's wrath. The Titans moved silently through the vast emptiness of space, slipping past the edges of the known galaxy, unseen by the Xorthar, their cloaking devices rendering them invisible. The journey was long, but with each passing moment, the fleet drew closer to its destination, the Xorthar homeworld. Meanwhile, the Xorthar were blissfully unaware of the storm that was about to engulf them. They continued to plan their next move, unaware that the most powerful fleet in the galaxy was on its way to bring their empire to its knees. The electric hum of the Titan's engines resonated through the silence of space as they entered warp speed, closing in on their target. The warships, so large they could engulf planets, were about to make their presence known. And when they arrived, the Xorthar would learn that the humans had just begun to fight. The journey through the cosmos was long and fraught with tension. The human fleet, made up of the mighty Titans, planet-sized warships capable of cloaking entire worlds, moved silently through the void of space, their engines barely a whisper in the stillness of the galaxy. These ships, the most advanced humanity had ever built, carried with them not just the might of Earth's technology, but the weight of a collective purpose: revenge for a child's death, and the ultimate extinction of the Xorthar. As the fleet sped through deep space, a sense of unease lingered in the air. Commander Elias stood on the bridge of the flagship Titan, staring out into the endless expanse, his mind focused on the mission ahead. His thoughts, however, often strayed back to Earth. He remembered his own child, safe at home, far from the chaos of war. His heart ached, knowing that Sarah's parents would never get that privilege. That simple peace. His resolve grew stronger with every passing second. This was not just about retribution. This was about righting a wrong that could never be undone. Despite the fleet's overwhelming power, the journey was far from uneventful. As they neared the Xorthar's territory, hostile alien forces began to notice their approach. The universe was vast, and many species had staked their claims in the stars, some neutral, others eager to test the limits of the human fleet's capabilities. But none of these forces were prepared for the might of Earth's Titans. One such encounter happened when the fleet encountered a group of alien raiders, their ships sleek and fast, darting through space with agility and precision. At first, it seemed like they might pose a threat, trying to close in on the fleet's blind spots, launching sneak attacks with energy weapons that could disable a ship's systems in seconds. The raiders' movements were quick and unpredictable, and their ships appeared to be able to phase in and out of visibility, much like Earth's own Titans. But the raiders were no match for the Titans' advanced cloaking technology. The raiders fired their weapons, but the energy blasts dissipated harmlessly against the Titans' shields. The human fleet's eye-controlled systems intercepted their attacks, anticipating their every move. Within seconds, the Titans responded with calculated precision. One by one, the raider ships were struck by energy beams that tore through their hulls, sending them into a fiery explosion. The raiders didn't even have time to react before their ships were reduced to space debris. The encounter was over in minutes, a testament to the power of Earth's warships. As the fleet advanced further, there were several more skirmishes with hostile forces, some of whom seemed intent on testing the humans' resolve. But each time, the outcome was the same. Earth's fleet was far superior, its technology far beyond anything these enemies could throw at them. The Titans moved through space like shadows, appearing and disappearing at will, leaving nothing in their wake but the ruins of those foolish enough to stand in their path. Yet, despite the ease with which they destroyed these obstacles, Commander Elias could not shake the weight of the mission. Every victory, every enemy destroyed, only seemed to drive home the futility of war. His mind would often drift back to Sarah's parents, her mother's cries as the child was taken from them, her father's desperate attempts to save her. Elias knew the pain of loss. He had lost his own family to a previous war. His wife and son had perished in an attack on Earth, the tragedy leaving a scar on his soul that never fully healed. This mission was his chance to honor their memory, and to ensure no other family would have to suffer the same fate. The emotional weight of the mission was evident to all on board the Titans. The crew, though disciplined and focused on their task, could not ignore the gravity of what they were doing. Sarah's death had sparked something in them, something deep and primal. They were no longer soldiers fighting for a cause. They were a family, united in their determination to bring the Xorthar to justice. And each victory, each destroyed enemy ship, was a step closer to their ultimate goal, to bring the fight to the Xorthar homeworld. As the fleet drew closer to their destination, tensions began to rise. The Xorthar homeworld was not far off, and the human warships had to be ready for anything. Commander Elias knew that the most dangerous part of the journey was still ahead. The Xorthar were not known for being merciful, and they would fight tooth and nail to protect their home. The Titans had been cloaked for most of the journey, moving undetected through space. But as they neared the heart of Xorthar territory, their cloak began to flicker in and out of visibility. The fleet was getting closer, but the closer they got, the more dangerous the mission became. The Xorthar would be on high alert, watching for any sign of intrusion. Commander Elias stood on the bridge, his hands clenched into fists as he watched the readings on the screen. His mind raced with strategies and contingencies. They had to strike fast, and they had to strike hard. The element of surprise was their greatest weapon, but it was a weapon that could be rendered useless if the Xorthar detected them too soon. Status report. Elias barked, his voice cutting through the tension. Cloaking systems are stable, Commander, reported his second-in-command, Lieutenant Hanna. We're still undetected, but we'll need to disengage soon. The closer we get, the harder it will be to maintain full invisibility. Elias nodded, his expression grim. Keep the systems running as long as possible. When we strike with everything we've got. The crew continued to monitor the fleet's progress, knowing that their next move would be the most crucial of their entire mission. Earth's message was clear. The Xorthar would pay for what they had done. The Titans were the tip of humanity's spear, and the full force of Earth's military might was waiting in the wings, ready to bring the fight to the Xorthar in a way they would never forget. As the fleet moved closer to the Xorthar homeworld, Elias felt the weight of the mission pressing down on him. The lives of thousands of men and women rested in his hands, and the fate of humanity's future hung in the balance. But there was something else that made the moment feel even more significant, a deep personal connection to the mission. Elias had once lost his own family to war. Now he was determined to make sure the Xorthar would never take another child, another family, from anyone ever again. The electric hum of the Titan's engines reverberated through the fleet as they closed in on their target. The final approach was imminent, and the tension in the air was palpable. Every member of the crew knew what was at stake. This was not just a battle, it was a reckoning. And it was coming for the Xorthar. As they neared the Xorthar homeworld, Commander Elias's thoughts returned to the faces of Sarah's parents. He could almost hear their voices, their grief and pain echoing in his mind. This war was not just about the death of one child. It was about the future of humanity, the future of every family in the galaxy. And the Xorthar would soon learn the true cost of their cruelty. The fleet cloaked once more, slipping silently through the vast emptiness of space, ready to strike at the heart of the Xorthar Empire. The final battle was coming, and nothing would stand in their way. The atmosphere was thick with tension as Earth's fleet finally arrived at the Xorthar homeworld. From the cold silence of space, the massive planet loomed large, a testament to the technological marvels of the Xorthar race. Towering cities stretched across the surface, their gleaming structures reaching for the sky, pulsing with lights that shone like beacons in the dark. The Xorthar had built an empire, and they believed it was invulnerable. Nothing in the galaxy could challenge them. But they were wrong. Commander Elias stood on the bridge of the lead Titan, staring down at the planet below, his heart beating faster with each passing second. The time had come. Earth's retaliation for the death of a child. The brutal murder of Sarah had finally arrived, and it would be unlike anything the Xorthar could ever imagine. The Titans had cloaked themselves long before entering orbit, their massive forms hidden in plain sight. To the Xorthar, they were invisible. The moment the first strike was delivered, it would be too late for the Xorthar to react. Earth's warships were silent, deadly predators in the darkness of space, waiting for the right moment to pounce. Commander Elias took a deep breath and gave the order. Initiate bombardment. Target their cities. The response was immediate, and in an instant, the Titans released their devastating payload. Orbital bombardment rained down on the Xorthar homeworld like a violent storm. The weapons, powered by Earth's most advanced technology, tore through the atmosphere, striking the ground with precision and power that could only come from planet-sized warships. Massive explosions erupted across the Xorthar cities, and in seconds, entire metropolises were reduced to rubble. The skyline, once so proud and tall, now lay shattered, buildings crumbling in a wave of destruction. From the surface of the planet, the Xorthar could do nothing but watch in horror as their world was ripped apart. The skies above them lit up with the fiery blasts of orbital weapons, and the ground beneath them shook with the force of every impact. Entire districts vanished into dust, buildings collapsing in on themselves like sandcastles destroyed by a storm. The ground was scorched, and the air thickened with smoke and ash. In the midst of the chaos, the Xorthar scrambled to mobilize their defense systems. Their fleets, massive and intimidating, took to the skies in a desperate attempt to retaliate. They fired their weapons into space, trying to lock onto Earth's warships. But it was too late. The Titans had already cloaked again, vanishing from sight as if they had never been there at all. The Xorthar commanders, stunned and confused, ordered their ships to scatter, hoping to cover more ground. But they had underestimated Earth's advanced technology. The Titans were not only invisible but also faster, more agile, and equipped with AI systems that could anticipate the enemy's every move. The Xorthar fleets, although large and powerful, stood no chance against Earth's superior technology. As the Xorthar ships scattered, they were easy targets for the Titans. One by one, Earth's warships emerged from the cloak, striking down their enemies with surgical precision. The Xorthar were unable to track them. Their sensors could not detect the Titans' movements. Every attack the Xorthar launched missed its target, while the human fleet picked them off one by one. The once proud Xorthar ships were no match for the might of Earth's warships. The Titans' weapons unleashed a terrifying barrage of energy beams and missiles, tearing through the Xorthar ships like paper. The Xorthar tried to regroup, their fleet scattering in every direction, but the humans were everywhere. From the cloak of invisibility, Earth's warships attacked with brutal efficiency. Every Xorthar ship that appeared on the radar was instantly targeted and destroyed in a flash of light. It was a close-quarters battle. Despite the vastness of space, the Xorthar had no way of defending themselves from an invisible enemy who could strike from any angle. Their ships were caught off guard, the crew members scrambling to find a way to counterattack, but it was clear that they were losing the battle. The human fleet, though fewer in number, had something that the Xorthar could never hope to match: experience, ingenuity, and the power of Earth's warships. Commander Elias watched as the battle unfolded on his display, his heart pounding with adrenaline. Each enemy ship destroyed brought him a step closer to his goal, but he knew that this was only the beginning. The destruction of the Xorthar cities and their fleets would not end the war. It would only escalate it. The Xorthar would retaliate, and Earth would have to be ready for the next phase of the battle. Still, the sight of their swift victory over the Xorthar's initial defenses filled him with a sense of accomplishment. The Xorthar had believed themselves untouchable, their arrogance leading to their downfall. But Earth was showing them that no one was beyond reach, not even the mighty Xorthar. As the last Xorthar ships fell to Earth's overwhelming firepower, the fleet took a moment to regroup. The Titans emerged from their cloaks, their massive forms now visible to anyone on the planet's surface. The message was clear. Earth had arrived, and it was not going to stop until the Xorthar had been punished for their crimes. Commander Elias stood silently, watching as the remnants of the Xorthar fleet drifted in space. His thoughts once again turned to Sarah's parents, to the little girl whose life had been stolen. He thought of all the families whose loved ones had been lost to the Xorthar's cruelty. This victory, though significant, was only a small part of the larger war. The real battle was still ahead, and Elias knew that the Xorthar would not go down without a fight. But for now, Earth had struck the first blow. The Xorthar would never forget this day. It would be a reminder to them, and to every other species in the galaxy, that humanity was not to be underestimated. The humans would fight for their survival, and they would fight to the bitter end. As the Titans regrouped, Commander Elias turned to his crew. "We've taken the first step, but we're far from done. Prepare for the next phase. The Xorthar won't stop until they're completely destroyed, and neither will we." The crew nodded in agreement, their eyes filled with determination. Earth had made its statement, and now the war was on. The Xorthar might have had the power of a galaxy, but humanity had the resolve to take it from them, and they would fight until the last Xorthar had fallen, until Earth's revenge was complete. The roar of battle echoed through the vast underground palace, a structure of cold stone and alien technology, built to withstand any attack. The last remnants of the Xorthar Empire had retreated here, hiding behind layers of defenses and fortified walls. But it was all for nothing. Commander Elias and his strike team had come for them. The air was thick with the smell of smoke and the acrid sting of burning metal. The ground shook beneath their feet as explosions rocked the structure, each one a reminder of the fierce battle taking place on the surface above. But inside the palace, the fight had turned into something even more brutal, a fight for survival. The walls of the ancient building, designed to withstand attacks, now groaned under the force of Earth's most advanced weaponry. But the Xorthar were cornered, and they fought back with everything they had. Elias led his team down narrow corridors, their footsteps silent as they moved through the darkened halls. The sounds of distant explosions echoed in the background. But here, in the heart of the Xorthar stronghold, there was no room for hesitation. The humans were outnumbered, but they fought with the same resolve that had carried them this far. They had lost too much already to stop now. Every blow, every strike, was personal. They weren't just fighting for victory anymore. They were fighting for justice. The Xorthar soldiers, though technologically advanced and skilled in combat, could not match the sheer will of the humans. The soldiers clashed in close combat, their weapons flashing as they met on the battlefield. The screech of metal against metal rang through the halls as blades and energy weapons collided. The humans fought with an unrelenting fury, each one remembering what they had lost, each one fighting to avenge the death of Sarah, the innocent child who had sparked this war. The intense flashes of laser fire illuminated the dark corners of the palace. Soldiers shouted orders, their faces masked in grim determination. The Xorthar fought with precision, but the humans, their hearts full of rage and sorrow, fought with something the Xorthar could never understand: emotion. Every strike, every move, was filled with the weight of their grief. Elias fought with the strength of a father, his every movement driven by the memory of the child who had been killed. He moved like a shadow through the palace, his soldiers following his lead as they cleared each hallway, each room. The Xorthar were relentless, but Elias's focus was unshakable. He could feel the weight of every step as they neared the Emperor's inner sanctum. This would be the final confrontation. They breached the final door to the Emperor's chamber, and there, standing before them, was the Xorthar Emperor, his cold, calculating eyes locked onto Elias, his expression one of defiance and fear. The Emperor, tall and imposing, had once ruled over a vast empire with an iron fist. Now he stood in the ruins of his own making, trapped in a palace that was rapidly falling apart around him. He raised his hands in a sign of surrender. his voice smooth and deceptive. "You have won, human. Your vengeance has been satisfied. Spare me, and I will ensure the Xorthar Empire does not retaliate." Elias stood motionless, the grip on his weapon tightening. His heart beat fiercely in his chest as his mind flashed back to Sarah, her smiling face, her innocence taken from her in the blink of an eye. He thought of her parents, broken by grief, and of all the innocent lives lost in this war. The Emperor's words fell on deaf ears. "I don't want mercy," Elias said coldly, his voice steady. "You don't get mercy. You killed a child, and for that you will die." The Emperor's eyes widened, panic flashing across his face as he realized there would be no negotiating, no escape. The finality of Elias's words cut through him like a blade. He stepped back, his posture faltering, but Elias was already moving, faster than the Emperor could react. With one swift motion, Elias raised his weapon, and the room was filled with the deafening sound of energy crackling through the air. The Emperor fell to the floor with a sickening thud, his body twitching as the last remnants of life left him. The tyrant who had caused so much suffering for so many was no more. The silence that followed was deafening. The battle outside seemed to pause in that moment, as if the entire galaxy was holding its breath. Elias stood over the fallen Emperor, his heart heavy with the weight of the decision he had just made. It was over. The Xorthar had been avenged, but the cost was great. The remaining Xorthar warriors, witnessing the fall of their Emperor, saw the inevitable truth. Their empire was finished. There would be no victory, no second chance. Their world had crumbled, and their leadership had been destroyed. They had nowhere to run, no hope for survival. One by one, the last of the Xorthar warriors dropped their weapons, their faces filled with a mixture of fear and resignation. The war was over, and they had lost. They knelt before Elias and his strike team, knowing there was no escape. The humans had claimed their victory. As the Xorthar surrendered, Elias felt a wave of emptiness wash over him. The battle was won, but the grief of losing Sarah, of losing so many lives, would never leave him. Earth had avenged the death of the child, but in doing so, they had sacrificed so much. The war had taken its toll on every soul involved. The humans had emerged victorious, but at what cost? As the last of the Xorthar were taken into custody, Elias's thoughts turned to his own family. He thought of his own child, the one he had left behind on Earth, and the weight of what he had done. He had won the battle, but the emotional scars would last far longer than any physical wounds. The Xorthar might have been destroyed, but the cost of this war had been immeasurable. The humans had triumphed, but the galaxy would never be the same. The echoes of Sarah's death, the brutality of the Xorthar, and the sacrifices of those who fought would resonate for generations to come. Earth had sent its warships to avenge a child, and now the galaxy would remember why humanity was not to be underestimated. The victory was complete, but the war had changed everything. And in the silence that followed, Commander Elias knew that the true cost of victory was not just the bloodshed on the battlefield. It was the lives that would never be the same again. The human fleet returned home, victorious but heavy-hearted. The once proud warships that had carved a path of destruction through the Xorthar Empire now floated in the silence of space, their cloaking devices engaged once more. The vast ships, which had once been symbols of the wrath of Earth, were now shrouded in the darkness of space, vanishing from sight. They were heading home, but there was no joy in their return. The cost of their triumph was far too great. Commander Elias stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring out into the endless expanse of the cosmos. He could hear the quiet hum of the ship's engines, but the sound was hollow, drowned by the weight of loss that filled his chest. His mind replayed the battle, the faces of his fallen comrades flashing before his eyes. He had lost too many on this journey, soldiers, friends, and brothers in arms. One face haunted him the most. Bonner. Bonner had been Elias's right-hand man, a man of unwavering loyalty and strength. He had fought with valor, side by side with Elias, every step of the way. But in the final assault on the Xorthar Palace, Bonner had been struck down, his life snuffed out in a brutal clash. The loss had hit Elias hard. Bonner had been more than a soldier. He had been a friend, a brother. Now he was gone. His death had left a hole in the heart of the mission, a reminder of the personal cost of war. As the fleet made its way back to Earth, the mood aboard the ships was somber. The soldiers, who had once been filled with the adrenaline of battle, now walked the halls in silence, their faces marked by the exhaustion and grief that came with such a victory. Heroes they might be to the galaxy, but to themselves, they were simply survivors of a war that had taken far too much. Back on Earth, a memorial was held for Sarah and all those who had fallen in the war. The world had mourned the loss of the innocent child, but now they'd mourned the loss of the men and women who had given their lives to ensure her death was not in vain. The ceremony was a solemn occasion. The names of the fallen read aloud as families and soldiers stood together in quiet remembrance. Commander Elias stood before the monument dedicated to Sarah, his heart heavy as he gazed at the likeness of the little girl. The monument was simple yet powerful, a tribute to the innocence that had been lost and to the strength of humanity's resolve. Elias's eyes lingered on the monument for a long time, his thoughts drifting to the child's parents, who had lost everything, and to the soldiers who had paid the ultimate price. He placed a hand on the cold stone, his voice barely above a whisper as he made a vow. "We will never forget. Not her, not them, not any of you. This war was fought for you. We will carry your memory with us, always." The people around him stood still, their faces a mix of sorrow and pride. They had won, but the victory felt hollow. The cost of this war had been too high. The Xorthar Empire was gone, but at what price? The death of Sarah, the sacrifice of so many brave souls, it all weighed heavily on their hearts. As the memorial came to an end, the message from Earth's government echoed across the galaxy, reaching every corner of the universe. It was a message of strength, but also a reminder of humanity's resolve. The voice of the government was calm but firm. "Never forget. When you harm one of us, you face all of us, and we will strike back." The message was a declaration to the entire galaxy, a warning that humanity was not to be underestimated. The Galactic Council, which had once believed that humans were weak and insignificant, was now stunned by what Earth had done. They had seen the power of Earth's warships, the fury of its people, and the determination that had driven them to avenge a child. The Council had underestimated humanity's capacity for wrath. Now, they knew better. The universe, once indifferent to Earth, now saw humanity in a new light. The small blue planet on the edge of the galaxy had proven that even the smallest act of cruelty could awaken a sleeping giant. Earth had shown the galaxy that when pushed to the edge, humanity would not back down. They would fight, and they would win. But for all the power Earth had displayed, there was no joy in their victory. The war had left scars on every person who had fought in it. The emotional toll of the battle, the loss of so many lives, weighed heavily on the minds of the soldiers. They had won, yes, but the price had been steep. The galaxy would remember the victory, but it would also remember the cost. Commander Elias walked away from the monument, his heart still heavy with the weight of his decisions. He had done what he had to do, but it hadn't brought Sarah back. It hadn't brought back Bonner or any of the soldiers who had fallen. The victory would be remembered, but so would the pain. As the ships continued their journey home, the warships faded into the vastness of space once more, their cloaking devices rendering them invisible to all but those who knew what they had done. Earth had sent a message to the galaxy. Humanity was no longer a race to be ignored or underestimated. They had shown the power of their anger, the strength of their resolve, and the depth of their love for those they had lost. But in the quiet aftermath, Earth had also shown the galaxy something more. They had shown that even in the face of unimaginable loss, humanity would stand strong. They had proven that they would fight for what was right, no matter the cost. The galaxy now knew that when humans were wronged, they would stop at nothing to make it right. And as Commander Elias gazed out into the endless void of space, he knew that this victory, like all victories, came with a price. The cost of war was steep, but humanity had paid it, and they had emerged stronger for it. The galaxy would remember this day, and humanity's place in it, forever.